Okay, today we are pleased to be joined by a very special guest. This ex-professional hockey player turned country star is the oldest of five brothers in the Canadian country group, the Hunter brothers. We are very pleased to welcome JJ Hunter to the show. Thank you for doing this, JJ.
Hey guys, thanks so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for taking the time. It's truly an honor to have you on today. And just based off of the conversations we had before we started recording here, we're in for a good one today, I think. But just tell us where you're talking to us from now, and just a little bit about your winter, I guess, over just the last few months, what you've been up to, and what the future's looking like for you.
Yeah, you bet. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on in the sense I don't always get to talk sports. So often we're
Yeah.
talking music or whatever. And so this is always a treat for me to relive the glory days back in the hockey days. But yeah, so I'm calling you from the farm. This used to be our old mechanic shop on the farm where we did all our inside work. We built a new shop a few years ago. And so we gutted this place, completely renovated it. Just on the other side of the wall here, we have a stage and kind of a whole rehearsal space that we, get to play our music in, and all our gear is set up there. And then it was actually in 2019, we were making trips to Nashville all the time to record down there. And we said, man, wouldn't it be nice to have a recording studio right here on the farm? Because without fail, we'd go down, record, you'd get back to the farm, and there'd be stuff that we want to re-sing or harmonies that we'd want to add or whatever it was. And we had no capabilities of doing that. So this, we thought, would just be a little place to record some demos and maybe the odd little clip. Well, then with how the world has gone the last few years and not being able to travel, we've recorded our last two albums here. Every vocal except for one song was recorded here.
Wow.
And we've just kind of done more and more out of our home studio. And so, yeah, this is where we're at home on the farm in Saskatchewan. And that was what life was. It was farming during the summertime, training for the next hockey season, doing some music festivals on the weekend, and then in the winter we'd hit the road with whatever hockey team we were playing on. And grew up here with four younger brothers, so the five of us are in the band now all together, and had no sisters. And one by one, we made our way back from. We all played hockey, and one by one, through injuries and various things, made our way back to the farm and decided to really take a swing at the music. And it's been really encouraging to have the support of the nation and beyond behind the music, and it's been a fun journey.
Well, you just said how much you like talking sports, and I just realized we were talking for like 10 minutes before we started recording, and I don't think music came up for even a second.
Yeah.
I will talk sports all day long.
We will.
Hockey, let's do it.
I'm sure the people listening to this are going to want to hear some music, so we'll get to it at the end, but we definitely have lots of sports questions. But before we get started, you talked about the home farm that you're on now. So who's actually living on the farm now?
Well, we've over the course of the last decade or so, we've kind of moved various places. Some of us are actually building homes, and I started a new yard, my wife and I, and our kids. So we planted about 900 trees last year.
Wow.
I don't know, quite an undertaking. But we're all close here. My one brother lives about 8 miles north of Shaunavon. We're all close to the farm. I have another brother that's my youngest brother works elsewhere when he's not doing the music, but he lives right in Shaunavon. So yeah, we're all fairly close here around the farm.
What's the dynamic? I'm just wondering, like, where you're recording now, you said that you guys record there. Just what's that dynamic between you and your brothers? Like, is it like when you guys are recording, is it down to business? Is it like kind of joking around, or just because having brothers isn't always fun. It's usually fun, but there's lots of scraps, lots of arguments. So what's that dynamic like for the five of you?
Yeah. It's taken different shapes over the years. I can definitely say that. Different relationships have developed in different ways. When we were young, I was telling you before we jumped on here that Dad built us an artificial ice rink right beside our house. And that was kind of an unheard of thing. He found an old artificial ice rink plant it was actually from a curling rink in a neighboring town. They were shutting down the curling rink or getting a new plant. I can't remember which. And he bought it and built us this rink. Well, growing up, I mean, you can imagine the battles that we had out there as brothers. Ty was quite a bit younger, but so was always me and Brock against Dusty and Luke. And wow, yeah, we had some wars for sure. As the years went on, we were always friends, but those age gaps were, caused certain things. I was long gone out of the house before Ty was there's 12, almost 13 years between us. And so there's quite an age gap when we were younger. So our relationship really started to develop when I retired from playing hockey and came home. When we're in the studio, we each kind of have our different strengths, and Brock sings bass, so he's usually in here last recording vocals, but he's really in tune with tracks and music, and so he likes to weigh in there. Ty's our lead singer, so he comes in first. He lays his tracks down usually himself. It's just him and I, and he likes to be kind of just in his own space and just get into the groove. And so we've had him laying on the couch over here. Sometimes he's dancing, so he's all over the place. Dusty is very focused. Dusty's down to business. When he's in here, it's just we're coming in here to sing. And usually we talk hockey, fantasy hockey at some point though. But then Luke sings a baritone part, and Dusty sits in here while he records that. So that's always kind of fun with the three of us. But yeah, it kind of now has morphed into this thing where that's how it looks. But we've done it every way imaginable. So we're brothers. We don't agree on everything, but we try to look at it as those differences or that diversity within us. Kind of, we try to use that to our strength.
We're gonna need to get you guys in our fantasy hockey league next year. We do one with us, and we'll get you in there.
Do we have a keeper league, or is it just
we're not keeper, but we'd like to get it to a point where it would be a keeper at some point. Okay. That'd be the ideal. I had something written down though, because obviously all of you have been in hockey change rooms in your life growing up. You all played high level hockey. When the five of you are in the studio just kind of shooting the shit, does that kind of remind you of a hockey change room in a sense?
Yeah, to a degree. And I think I had one of my coaches in junior hockey when I was playing with the Kelowna Rockets was Mark Habscheid. He coaches in Prince Albert now. A fantastic coach, excellent relationally, knows how to get a lot out of his players. Very, very prepared. He came to a show a few years back that we were having here in the province. And we actually started talking about the dynamic of when you leave the hockey dressing room. I mean, when you talk to the hockey guys, I'm sure you guys have heard it too. You miss the games, you miss the common goals, working towards a championship or whatever it is. But the guys always say, I miss the bus rides. I miss being in the room, just hanging out with the guys, and you miss that competitiveness. And I think that is provided, with the brothers, getting to hang out, getting to talk about whatever it is, whatever's going on that day, or the music, or figuring that out. I think the live shows too really fill a void that way, because although it's in some ways really different than hockey, there's a lot of similarities too, because
adrenaline rush.
Oh, there's absolutely that. And you don't know what can happen. I mean, in a hockey game, you've got your systems, you know what you're preparing for, but you get on the ice and all of a sudden the other team throws a curveball at you and they change their system up, or they change their breakout, and you've got to be able to, and that's the way live shows are. You don't know what can go wrong. You could have, interference, in your earbuds, or you could have, strings break. You can have stuff go wrong. Audience doesn't respond the way you think they are going to, whatever. And so you really have to be on your toes. So there's quite a few similarities.
Is there anything that has gone wrong at a live show that you'd be willing to share? Or what's the worst thing that's happened?
Oh man. Yeah, there's a lot of different stories. We were playing a show in Quebec. This was, I think in 2019, the summer of 2019. And we had traveled all the way out there. I traveled with 2 acoustic guitars. Brock travels with 1, even though he's an electric player, because we usually do kind of an acoustic set in the middle. Right. Well, we didn't have a guitar tech on it. And through the course of the show, we broke strings on all 3 acoustic guitars. And so then I'm left with no guitar. Fortunately, because finally, when I had broken both of mine, I got Brock's guitar, and it was the last song of the show that I broke his string. So I just played it out. But I mean, it does happen where you all of a sudden are like, had we had more songs, I don't know what I would have played, but or take a break. Probably the worst was our very first. We'd signed with our label, with our management company. We were doing a show out in BC, and we were there so early because we were under a label. So we were all, this is the whole country music thing was really new to us, and we were super early, set up, got our stuff there, but there were all these bands playing in front of us. So we sat there all day as all these other bands played. There was a lot of time gap between each act and everything, and we were nervous because we were opening for Doc Walker, who, for us at that point, that was one of the first times we had opened for a major, recording act in Canada. Well, finally got to our set, and we had just started hauling our stuff on, and the stage manager yells at us, "You guys got 4 minutes to showtime." And we were like, we don't even have anything set up.
Yeah.
And so we were hauling stuff on as fast as we could. Our in-ear monitors weren't working. The whole machine wouldn't turn on. There were no floor monitors, so we had no way of hearing it. It was in this kind of tin can like stage, like trailer stage that was there. We went to start the show. Dusty looked down, and the mics on his drums weren't even plugged in. And the whole thing, like, it was an absolute disaster. Like, and this was like one of our first, big shows with our label. And I just, it was everything that could have possibly gone wrong went wrong. And you try to put those out of your mind, but yet you kind of have to roll with it. The funny thing was, Doc Walker got on right after us. They gave them no time. So they just said, hey, they yelled at the monitor tech, throw something in the monitors, and they just played, they played like pros, and it was one of those learning experiences right off the hop where you go, okay, you got to learn to roll with things no matter what gets thrown at you.
Yeah. Couldn't imagine. But let's take things way back. Let's step aside from music just for a little bit here. Let's get into your hockey career a little bit. You played in the WHL from 98 to 01. And then after that, you spent time in the ECHL and the AHL. Let's take it back even before the WHL. What were the dreams as a child? Were you like pretty heavily involved in like music then too? Or was kind of, the typical young Canadian hockey player of the dream of being a pro hockey player one day? What was your dream, and when did you kind of realize that you had a legit shot at being a professional hockey player?
Yeah, that's a great question. Hockey growing up was always my favorite. There was kind of a unique situation with mom and dad. Mom was kind of the musical one in our family. Dad came from a family of musicians, but he was the one that put us in hockey. And so mom and dad kind of had this agreement. Mom put us in piano, dad put us in hockey, but they supported each other in kind of each endeavor. And but mom must have won out because we weren't allowed to go out and play hockey until our piano was practiced. So other than Ty, he was the opposite. He wasn't allowed to practice his piano until he went out and took his shots on the ice. That's one thing we had to go and practice our shots. Anyway, I was pretty young. The first year that dad put me in hockey, I hated it. He took me out for a year, which to his credit, a lot of parents, I don't think necessarily would have done that. He took me out, waited until I was ready, put me in. I think I was 5 or 6 when I finally grabbed onto it. And from that point on, the NHL dream was alive, and that's what I wanted to do. I mentioned the rink that dad built, and we spent every spare second we could out there. I took a bit of a back road a different way getting to the WHL. I wasn't drafted in the Bantam draft. I played virtually no rep hockey other than 1 year of summer hockey. I played my minor hockey here in Shaunavon. I went away to a private Christian school in Carenport for 2 years, grade 11 and 12, and played my midget out there. And I got listed by a junior A club. And so I thought, well, maybe I could play a little bit of junior A hockey and then hope for a scholarship, something like that. But I called my uncle, my uncle was a downhill racer, Jungle Jim Hunter. He was one of the original Crazy Canucks. He won a medal in the 72 Olympics, and he was known for his crazy training technique. He lives in Calgary. And so
Really?
I talked to my dad. I said, Dad, would you mind if I called Jungle up and go and train with him? And he said, go for it. So I called him up. Went to Calgary, started training with my Uncle Jim, and it was some ice time that he found through a friend's friend, and it just so happened that the guy that ran the ice session was just had become the head coach of the Kelowna Rockets.
No way.
So we built a relationship, and we had been training so hard when I hit the ice. I'm sure, I was like that guy that all the junior and pro guys are looking at, rolling their eyes, because for me, I knew I was stepping on the ice with guys that the ice sessions were built up of pro guys and junior guys. And as the summer progressed, more of the Calgary Flames would come back, and then they would skate, and they would divide the sessions up into the pro players and the junior players. But for me, this was my opportunity, even though it wasn't even a training camp. So I was going, as hard as I could. And anyway, Garth Malarchuk was the head coach at that time, and we started building a relationship over the course of the summer, and he threw me up in the pro group, and I went from playing AA midget hockey, hoping to play a little bit of junior someday to getting listed by Kelowna, and actually I got an invitation to the Calgary Flames rookie camp.
No way.
I wasn't allowed to go because I'd never been through the draft. Of course, I hadn't been. I was playing Double A midget in the middle of nowhere, Saskatchewan, and so I wasn't allowed to go. But it was a crazy year because that spring I was playing Double A midget, and that fall I had an invitation to the Calgary Flames rookie camp, and so I ended up making the team in Kelowna, playing there. After my first year, I got an invitation to the Detroit Red Wings training camp just as a free agent. And so we got to skate with Sergei Fedorov and Stevie Yzerman and Chris Draper. Scored a goal on Chris Osgood, assisted by Chris Draper. It was really
awesome.
kind of a dream come true, and then the junior career progressed, and eventually I signed with Edmonton, and we can talk about that as well. But it was, fairly young. I wanted to play in the NHL and do whatever it was that I could, and the music was always there. It was always part. There was a little festival that started down here in our area, and we got invited to sing as a family. We were singing, this vocal-based music. We sang our 15-minute set, and then we get asked to sing different events around Saskatchewan, and then that Western Canada eventually. And so in the summertime, it was a mix of training and singing festivals, and so music was always there too.
Wow. And just it's kind of wild that straight from Double A midget to the WHL, it's something that you never ever hear of. But the fact that you put up 50 points and 66 games in that season too is also incredible. So just going into that season, making the jump from Double A to the WHL, what expectations did you have for yourself? Did you ever imagine you'd be 16 points off of a point per game season in your first year in the WHL?
Yeah. I got to be honest. A lot of those points came on the heels of Brett McLean. I played on the line with Brett McLean, and he kind of helped make that transition. Brett had played.
They don't ask how.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate you saying that. My uncle Jim, he really preached believing in yourself, and I as a player, you go through those stretches where you do and then you don't, and it's amazing how confidence can change how you're playing. That coach, I mentioned that Mark Habscheid was a coach in Kelowna. He replaced Garth, I think, halfway through my second year, and but Garth really encouraged me, and he made me believe that I was capable of playing. When we were skating in that summer camp, that first day I was skating alongside WHL players, and up to that point, the WHL was so high in my mind. Like the Swiffer Broncos were just an hour down the road. We grew up idolizing those guys, and they would come out and skate with us, once a year down here in Shaunavon. And they just seemed so high above that when I actually finally stepped on the ice with them that summer and realized, wow, I can compete with these guys. Something switched in my mindset, I think. And then Garth really helped. He gave me a lot of opportunities. Playing on the line with Brett McLean really helped. Brett really helped show me the ropes. Scott Hannon was a defenseman on that team. Obviously, Scott played in the World Juniors and then had a long NHL career. And those guys really helped me transition. And that's something that, is invaluable when you have that senior leadership on the team helping the young guys out and helping you have that belief in yourself. That really made a difference for me.
And then getting into professional hockey, your first full season of professional hockey, you played 60 games for the Columbus Cottonmouths, which is an unreal name, and 45 points in 60 games. But it must have been a huge adjustment for you moving to the States for the first time, I'm guessing, because you just played in Western Canada, and then putting up a good season, but playing in Columbus. Was it an adjustment living-wise off the ice? It seems like you adjusted pretty well on the ice, but must have been a crazy year.
Yeah. And man, I get long-winded, so I apologize, guys, when we talk about this. There's so many stories that come to mind when we start talking about this. The pro game was definitely different. You hear that. Scott Hannon, I mentioned just a minute ago, he came back from the San Jose training camp that year, that first year, and I asked him, about making the jump, skating with NHL players and then coming back to junior. And he said, yeah, it's a big jump. But I remember also realizing really quick that the jump the WHL, the OHL, the Q gets a lot of recognition in Canada, as it should, because you've got the elite players at that level. What I think some people don't realize is when you step on the ice in the pro game, all of a sudden you're playing against men. And one story that stands out in my mind, so I'd finished my junior career in PA. We had a terrible team that year, but I got an invitation to the Oilers camp, and that's where my relationship with the Edmonton Oilers started. And I went to camp in Edmonton, then went to Hamilton. That was their American League affiliate, and then ended up in Columbus, which, by the way, we also had a team in our, you talk about the name Columbus Cottonmouths, there was also a team in our division called the Macon Whoopee.
How does that even happen?
Macon Whoopee, look it up.
Who comes up with that?
I don't know. Anyway, anyhow, so I got sent to Columbus, and I got picked up at the airport by this guy that I'm a 21-year-old kid. I could have sworn the guy was a coach, right? He was he had the glasses, graying hair, like whatever. Well, I find out after he drops us off at the airport that this is Barry Dreger. They called him the White Rhino. He was a long-term player. He played defense, and he was our one of our senior defensemen. Well, I tell you, playing junior hockey as a 20-year-old against 16, 17, 18-year-old defensemen, these young kids, teenagers, versus going into the corner and battling against Barry Dreger, a 20-year or 15-year seasoned pro who had been drafted by, I forget who, I don't know, but he had played in the IHL, and, going and trying to battle him in the corner, like it's a big difference. And you realize real quick that you're playing against men. And so the pro jump was big. There again, there was a lot of confidence that the coaches put. There were some young guys. Brian Smith's younger brother Jared was on that team, and Sean McCaslin, who had played with the Calgary Hitmen, and we played on a line together. And that transition was a lot of fun. It was different. You talk about going into the pro game. We went from billeting, to all of a sudden I was living with Sean McCaslin, two rookies, never lived on our own. I wasn't a cook. He wasn't a cook. We went to the first, they had this club that would kind of support the guys. We were each assigned a family, and anything that you need, they called it, there's a booster club. And the booster club held this party for us right away after we got there. Well, it was a barbecue. We had hot dogs and hamburgers, and they had these big tin tubs, and they had like a tin tub left over of hot dogs. Well, we didn't know how to cook. We just asked if we could take this tin of hot dogs. We took it, put it in our fridge, and I swear that's what we ate for like the first month of.
Wow.
My parents came down to visit us, and Mom
looked in the fridge.
Yeah, she's like, "Where's your food? Like, where are your spices?" I'm like, "Spices? What do I need spices for?" We were just like, all we knew how to do was boil like spaghetti, and then we just buy ragu sauce and dump it on there. And we had the oatmeal packages for breakfast in the morning, and that was as far as our, meals went. So, you talk about an adjustment. It was, and it wasn't until I lived with an older player that, him and his soon-to-be wife you were cooking, and they helped me learn how to cook. And yeah, you learn pretty quick, but at the same time, those first years, you roll your eyes at what you were doing.
The hot dogs could have went good on the spaghetti too. You cut those up and a little bit of meat in there.
I agree.
You played 140 ECHL games, and you hear stories on different podcasts, and we've talked to guys too. The travel in the ECHL can be a bit of a grind, and the bus trips, and you're getting little sandwiches. And what was it like for you, the travel? Because obviously you just played Western hockey before that.
Yeah, it was interesting. I mentioned the Booster Club; they were amazing. They said, but we'll bring you a whole bag of snacks every road trip. They would meet it no matter what time we were leaving in the morning. They would bring us snacks, and they said, you might as well tell us what you like, because we're going to bring you something whether you want it or not. And so that was incredible. The Columbus Cottonmouths, I mentioned the Macon Whoopee. There was a couple teams that had just made the jump into the ECHL that year. So they had played in the Central League the years leading up to there before they had signed as the AA affiliate of the Oilers. And so they had kind of a little culture down with those teams where you'd go into the opposing team's rink, and the other team's booster club would cook supper for the visiting team, which seems bizarre, but that was part of it for a lot of those teams down there in the southern states. So that was totally different and super cool though, because we'd finish playing the game and you'd get changed, load your bag on the bus, and they had like a whole home cooked spread for you, which was unbelievable, really. So that was interesting. That was different than what I had ever experienced, because usually you're just ordering off a menu and you eat on the bus on your road to the next place. But the travel wasn't too bad down there because a lot of the teams are fairly close. Saying that, we did have some long bus trips down to, so Fort Myers, Florida and whatnot. There were some interesting trips. It was weird going from playing in the Western Hockey League. I mean, you're traveling to Brandon, Manitoba and Prince Albert, Saskatchewan, and then you're down in Fort Myers, Florida, where there's palm trees and, the beach just right there. So definitely a lot of different experiences. But there were some crazy things that happened too. You hear about that. There was definitely a professional level. I don't want to downplay that. They had an affiliation with the Oilers, and so they did work closely with the assistant general manager, Scott Housen, who was the general manager of the Hamilton Bulldogs. But yeah, we saw a few things. We saw some trades and some management things that happened down there that were quite interesting. The ownership group of the Columbus team, Wanda and Shelby Amos, were unbelievable. They're owners of an insurance company called Aflac, which was, maybe you've heard of, an incredible insurance company, but they just loved hockey. And they were standing down here, these people that, didn't need to own a hockey team, to survive, but they were cheering their hearts out for the team. And, there's a lot of cool things. A lot of the fans down there, they weren't familiar with the game. They had learned the game. So they would announce offsides. They'd announce ice.
Wow.
It'd be like icing Columbus. And at first when you go down there, because we're so accustomed and we know hockey so well, and I don't know what it's like, this was quite a few years ago, but, for us, when we arrived down there, there was a lot of different things, but they just loved it. They loved the fights. They loved the, the big hits, those things that they just loved, and they loved the team. And so we didn't have a huge following, but the people that were there loved the sport.
Wow. Looking back at it all now, between the AHL, the ECHL, and the WHL, just are there any specific highlights or memories, just something that you still take with you today and you think about frequently, just something that you'll never forget from your time playing professional hockey?
Oh, so many things. I had a chance to play a number of preseason games with the Oilers, and so that was a dream come true. I grew up a Flames fan. When the Flames won the Cup in '89, that was a pretty stellar moment for me and my brothers, because we all loved the Flames. My next brother, Dusty, he was a smaller player, so he idolized Theron Fleury, and so we were big Flames fans. So then when I signed with the Oilers, I played my very first preseason game in Calgary in the Saskatchewan.
Oh, no way.
Flames. And so my whole family was there. My Uncle Jim, Jungle Jim, who I mentioned, they were all there. And I actually got to start. We played back-to-back games against the Flames. And so it was just the start of the preseason. And we played 2 games. And the first night I wasn't on the roster, and then they said they were posting the lineup for the second game after the first one. So we all ran, at the end of the game, we went down to see what the lineup was, and I skimmed it so fast I didn't see my name, only to realize that I was starting first line center, and at that time, I don't remember the name, Fernando Pisani and Jason Chimera, so I was centering the line with Paisan and Chimmer, and I totally missed my name. So I kind of, you see it, you're hopeful, you turn away, and for some reason I looked back and then I saw my name on the list, and it wasn't a regular season game, so it doesn't count, but for me, that moment, seeing your name on a list that you're going to play in an actual NHL game was pretty special. So we started that game standing on the blue line for the national anthems.
It's awesome.
That first game was a moment that I'll never forget with my family there, and that was a special moment. All the preseason games were cool for me as a player that never made that jump to playing regular season. The lockout year was a tough one for me. That was coming off a year that I everybody's got their story of woe of how they could have made it, but and the stats don't really show it, but the back half of my first year in the my first full year in the American League went really well, and you know, you kind of think, well, this is your chance. I just re-signed a new contract with Edmonton. So those are the low points along with the highs. At the same time, the guys that you play with, the moments that you hang out with guys, just the little things, practice. My second year of pro, I was a black ace with a Hamilton team that lost in Game 7 of the Calder Cup Finals against Houston. And so you got guys like, you know, well, that team was absolutely stacked. There were so many great players on that team. Marc-Andre Bergeron. You had, I think Eric Fichaud was one of the goalies, and he was a character. You know, all those practice, those moments where you're on the ice and playing with those guys. You know, it's all those little things that stand out to you. So, yeah, a lot of great memories that I'm really thankful for.
We'll move on from hockey shortly, but is there, and I kind of told you I was going to ask something along these lines, but is there one story that sticks out from your whole hockey career? Maybe a funny story. Is there anything funny as far as the travel or anything that goes with playing in the ECHL and the AHL?
Oh man, yeah.
I know it's a tough question to put you on the spot, but
there were tons of them. I mean, some of the pranks, and I don't know how graphic we could get. There were some pranks that were played in the hotels that were well done, very well done. I'll say that. I remember my first year pro. It was down in Columbus, and we were playing against Pensacola, and oh man, now I'm losing the names of the guys. It was an old player that had played in the NHL, and his name's escaping me right now. And we lined up against each other, and so I'm first year pro lining up against a guy that I knew had played in the NHL back in the day, and I am as serious as can be. I mean, I got my sights set on playing with the Edmonton Oilers. I want to move up to the AHL. I don't want to be in the ECHL, and so here I am, first face off against this old NHLer. He looks at me as we go into the face-off circle. And he says, $5 on the draw? Like, okay. I beat him in the face-off. The face-offs were something that I prided myself in, and I beat him. Well, we lined up against each other again a little later in the game.
Double or nothing?
He said, double or nothing. I get a chance to win my money back. I said, okay. And I beat him again. And third time we lined up, he said, no more. He said, that's it. And so we finished the game. And whatever, I hadn't thought of it since. And next thing I know, their trainer is in our dressing room, and he walks up to my stall, and he's got a $10 bill. And
no way.
I'm like, what's this? He said, hey, it came from the, I was like, man. So I ran outside, and he was walking by with his bag. I said, hey, Greg Pankowitz, there we go. And he said, I said, hey, you don't have to give this to me. He's like, it's just diaper money. Just he was married, had kids. For me, I'm a young guy. Just little stuff like that, like in the moment that the guys that make it. I remember playing in Cleveland, and Todd Harvey, who had a long NHL career, he was down in Cleveland at that time. I don't know why. He must have been doing a rehab stint or something, and getting into a scrum in front of the net. And I remember looking into his weathered face, and funny thing was, I got to know him later because he signed with the Oilers, but standing in there as a young guy, and I was trying to earn my spot, and gave him a cross check, and I was ready to, I wasn't a big fighter, but every once in a while he'd drop the gloves, and I just remember him looking at me and saying, sure you want to do this, kid? Just those veteran eyes looking back at you, and it just all those moments in all those little rinks. Playing in Syracuse, New York, such a small rink. The goalie doesn't even sit. The spare goalie doesn't even sit on the bench with you. They sit across the ice in the entry, where you enter the rink. Just little stuff like that from those old barns and different places along the way. Yeah, there's just so many memories that come back to you. One cool thing, my wife found the jersey that I wore in the Oilers preseason games. I don't know how she found it, but
nice.
Chris Kalanis wore the same number that I wore in preseason, and so it came as a package with both his name bar and mine, or his and so those things stand out to you, those keepsakes that you keep forever, and
that's awesome.
Pretty precious.
On your, we're going to get into music here, but do you need to shout out the last 6 seasons you had on your elite prospects page anyway with the Badgers? 86 games, 303 points throughout those 6 years. Absolutely unreal. You never see those type of numbers. We won't get into that too much. You can share something there if you want to, but that was last in 2013. Your debut album came in 2016. So just in those few years after you were kind of done with the hockey scene, just what kind of direction were you going? Was it music right away, or were you thinking other things, or just what kind of direction did you kind of head towards after you kind of hung up the skates a little bit there?
Yeah, appreciate the shout out for senior. Yeah, that was. I never was more nervous than playing senior hockey in a small town. We made, I think, 5 consecutive provincial final runs, and then I went to the Allen Cup finals a couple years with Rosetown, or went to the Allen Cup a couple years with Rosetown. Those were some fun days. When
I think you had 29 points in 8 games one year.
Those were good days. No, it was fun. I really enjoyed it. I got to play with all my brothers. There's 5 of us, so we got 2 defensemen and 3 forwards, and so there were times when it was just the 5 of us out.
Come on.
Those were pretty special memories too, honestly. And those provincial championships, our town had never had been to a provincial finals, and so that first year we made the provincial finals. The lineup was, I think, 2 blocks and around the corner long just to get into the rink. The old Jubilee Arena in Shawinigan was rocking, and
that's awesome.
That was pretty special. But the nerves ran high because the next, in a town this size, you get downtown and everybody was at the game, asking you why you didn't, score on that backdoor pass on the power play in the third period or whatever. But that was a lot of fun. And then the trips to the Allen Cup playing AAA, man, that's some good hockey. There's a lot of pro and junior players that played in the Allen Cup, and so those were good memories too. But when I came back, I wasn't sure. My last year in Manitoba with the Moose was outstanding. Cannot say enough about that organization. Craig Heisinger, who's our general manager there, treated us like absolute pros. Offered me a chance to come back. That was really hard to turn down.
Yeah.
Had to make a decision, and the music played into it a large part. We had never really taken the music really seriously, and all the brothers were home, and so we made a decision to come home. I had a few phone calls after that from the Oilers organization asking if I wanted to come back, and so turning that down those first couple of years was really hard. Saying that, we made the decision, and we kind of jumped into the music, and we were really fortunate. We signed with Open Road Recordings and RGK Entertainment, and Ron Kitchener, who's the head of the label and the management company, has been really good to us. The Canadian Country Music organization and just all the artists have been, it's like a close-knit family, and we've just had a lot of fun over the years. It's been neat returning to a lot of the stadiums. We did the Journey Tour with Paul Brandt and High Valley and Jess Moskaluk, and the special thing about that is going back to those same stadiums. We played the Saddle Dome, where I played my first NHL preseason game, but this time you're on tour with Paul Brandt on a stage on that same ice surface or in that same building, just with a guitar in your hand instead of a hockey stick. So there's been some pretty cool memories that I'm extremely thankful for as well. And seeing the response of the people as a musician now, I mean, that's far more at the forefront of my mind than the hockey, obviously. And you realize real quick, just like how hard it is to make a pro hockey team, you realize how much it takes to get a song on the radio and the sacrifice that those radio stations make in order to make room for a new artist. And so we're very, very grateful, and we're thankful for the support that we've got across the nation, and it's been a neat road there.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about the grind, about trying to get a song on the radio or trying to get more shows or something like that. Is for guys that aren't dialed into the music industry except hearing it on the radio or seeing you guys shows once you get big, for guys like us, what is the number one hardest thing about starting a band?
Getting good music. We did a thing with it was kind of a class that Ryan Tedder from One Republic put on. It was an online thing, and he made a statement about writing good music. And he said the best songs are the songs that are so simple in a sense that anybody listen to it and says, yeah, I could have wrote that, of course you'd write that melody line. Of course you'd write, that lyric. It just makes sense. And if it was easy, everybody would do it. So getting the music that people want to hear, that's probably the biggest thing. And you realize that real quick. The next thing that hit us, we did a cross Canada radio tour and visited the radio stations, and you find out really quick that, you think of the number of songs that they would have on their playlist, and I forget the stats exactly, but it's like they add something like a half a song per week on average. Well,
Jeez.
you think of the hundreds and hundreds of musicians across Canada and the hundreds and hundreds of songs that they receive. So for you to be the one that they sit in their music meeting and they say, yeah, that's a song we want to add to our list. It really became apparent very, very quickly to us that, there's got to be something there in the music that connects to people. There's got to be something that they believe in. There's got to be relationships. So much of the music and the hockey world is built on relationships. And so you realize that really quick. Getting a song on the radio and then getting something that people want to listen to is a tough thing. And so when people do latch on to your music, it means a lot.
There's highs and lows with everything you do in life, but was there ever a time just with the five of you where there was uncertainty about the direction, like, I don't know, whether to continue or maybe take a step back, or was there ever that uncertainty where you guys just always kind of locked in? Because obviously there's highs and lows, and sometimes during the lows, you have to debate whether some things are worth it, but were you guys always kind of locked onto this, or were there times where you were uncertain about it?
Oh, no. We had all retired from playing hockey. We had been contacted by a producer. We had looked into it. He was from Nashville, seemed completely legit. This was before we signed with our label or anything. We were trying to get this country music thing off the ground. And in some ways it's kind of an embarrassing story, but at the same time, it's a reality that you hear people go through. So we thought we had done our homework, made lots of phone calls to find out if this producer was legit. Everything checked out. We paid him up front for the album. That was how we went about it. We went down, we recorded with him. We started getting mixes back from this album, and all of a sudden we quit hearing from him. The guy just fell off the face of the earth, seemingly from our end. And what do you do from here? You go fly to Nashville and start knocking on doors. Like, what do you do? And every path that we went down to try to find out where he went or what happened to the music just led to another dead end. And so we were sitting there going, now we've paid all this money to get an album done. We don't have an album. We don't have anything, what do we do? And so that was a real low. We had all retired from playing hockey. We were a few years removed, so it wasn't like we were going to get back into it. And at that point, it looked like it was just kind of I guess we'll just do a few shows here around. We were doing some stuff in schools, and maybe that was the end of it. And so, yeah, and most artists, I think, have those type of stories in some way, shape, or form. It may not be that exact thing, but where you grind it out, you try and get off the ground, and it just doesn't work. And through a bunch of circumstances, eventually we knew the High Valley guys well, and Brad introduced us to our manager and introduced us to another producer, and we fortunately were able to get music together and wrote some songs and got some songs that people connected with, and it took off from there. But yeah, there was a lot of grinding roads before that.
Well, we won't take too much more time. I know you got to pick up your daughter, but a few quick questions we got to get to. One, you personally, what's the favorite song you guys have put out for you personally?
That's a really good question. That is a hard one, and you become attached to different songs for different reasons. Born and Raised was the first one that connected with the country music scene. It was our first top 10. That was the one that we performed at the CCMAs that we felt kind of kickstarted our career. So that one, we performed it in our backyard. We did a Born and Raised experience concert. That live music video was filmed in our backyard, and so that was a pretty special one. There were two on its last album that I think really stood out to me: the song Hard Dirt and the song Captain. Hard Dirt, it just speaks to what everybody goes through. There's a farming connection, but there also is the music connection. It was a song that was produced by Hunter Hayes, who we've always admired. So that relationship was pretty cool to work with Hunter on that and see his creativity. And the song Captain, we're actually right now working on kind of a more stripped down acoustic version of the song. And, that holds value for different reasons. You go through life and you ask a lot of questions of, and that song kind of speaks to, questions we've asked and purpose, deeper than just, hey, I like this song or I'm doing this thing or whatever. And so those two songs hold a lot of value for me.
And Hard Dirt, sorry to cut you off, Matt. Hard Dirt, that is nominated for a CCMA Best Video. Do I have that right?
Yeah, that got nominated for best video, so that was cool. And that song, it features our neighbor just straight across the field that way to the east. One of our good friends lost his wife and his unborn child and his mom in a car accident with a drunk driver, and so that video, it kind of highlighted stories of hardship for 4 or 5 different people, and the one guy that's interviewed in that or that you see in that video was the husband, the dad of our friend who lost his wife, and then his daughter-in-law and unborn grandchild. So that song holds a lot of meaning. Not to turn it down, there's a story that they've it's amazing how things have turned around for them. But
it's amazing. It's amazing.
And when music isn't a part of your daily routine, what does a day look like for you?
Yeah, we spent a lot of time in here recording and doing things. Sorry, I got an alarm that's going off. That was actually to let me know that we were supposed to have the interview at 5:30. Anyway, I've got a family, so I got 3 daughters, and so it's neat to see them grow up. I'm not at the hockey rink. I don't have hockey players. I've got dancers, so that's a change for me. But spending time with them and my wife is something that I value. I've gotten into, we're farmers, and so we plant things for a living, but I love, we planted a whole bunch of trees and we've got a garden going. And so that's something that I find a lot of joy in, but the music and the farming and the family take up a lot of time.
We got a good amount of farmers for friends around here. We're personally, I wouldn't say too much in the farmer scene, but we do have a lot of friends. So we got to ask some questions about that. But first of all, I saw on the Instagram you guys make a lot of videos. If anybody listening is not following the Hunter Brothers on Instagram, that's a definite follow you should see. But I saw the John Deere in a video. Do I got that right?
Oh, John Deere. On their farm.
the New Holland. So I had to see what that was like because a lot of guys around here, if you say the wrong tractor that they're driving, that's a big red flag. So same thing in Saskatchewan then.
Oh yeah, and this is maybe disclosing too much information. We got a song coming out that might talk about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Can't wait. Talk about those videos you guys make for the Instagram though, or do you go a whole day where you just film a bunch of them, or is it just kind of spontaneous?
Yeah, we've done everything. My brothers are pretty creative. Ty and Brock, they come up with some crazy ideas. I don't know if you've seen the piano stack video. We were planning to do this video with a piano. Next thing we know, we're building this 5-stack piano thing on our farm, and they come up with all sorts of ideas, and some of them we can do, some of them we can't, but that's the fun of it. And when we find the magic happens with those is when it's something we're all excited about. It's sometimes is, social media is a tough thing because it never sleeps. You put out a video today and it's old news tomorrow. And so coming out with new content, new material all the time it can be a daunting process. But we've found for us, when it's something that we can really kind of enjoy and have fun with, that's when it makes a lot of sense. And so some of the videos that you'll see on there, we've had a lot of fun with over the years.
And I've got to ask this one. It's been in the back of my mind for a little while now. You grew up cheering for Calgary, but you were part of the Edmonton organization. So now when it's the Battle of Alberta, whose side are you taking?
I was actually asked that yesterday. I'm loyal to the Oilers. I definitely have to be. I was with the organization for quite a few years, and so they've got a thing up in the dressing room that says "Once an Oiler, always an Oiler," and so I have to stick with the Oilers. Saying that, I'm one of those strange people, I guess, that can cheer for both the Flames and the Oilers. But if they're going head to head, for the head to head, I definitely cheer for the Oilers. And McDavid is just something special.
Insane.
Like that guy, he's another level.
Did you hear his quote yesterday or 2 days ago, whenever he made that move on Hedman and beat him wide? The reporter asked him, so you took one of the best defensemen wide, and his reply was, yeah, I'm pretty good too, though. So
That's amazing.
I love when he gets like he's a very humble guy. I love when he gets a little bit cocky in the media.
Bit edgy, yeah.
Because he deserves to be all the cockiness he wants.
The guy is unbelievable. And he blows me away. Like on Saturday night when they were playing Tampa, I didn't watch the whole game, but I threw it on in the third period. And when I threw it on, they had that delayed penalty call. And it was about the 16, 17 minute mark of the third period, and he basically just handled the puck for like 45 seconds. Like, who can do when you're playing the elite, the best in the world, and you stand out that much? Like, he is something special. I was really excited to watch him in the Olympics. I hope that there's best of the best, country on country sometime soon, because I'd love to see him, now at this level play for Team Canada. There's a question for you guys. Who would they put on his line?
Oof. I think I had McKinnon and Huberdeau is what I remember talking about before.
Yeah, I think McKinnon.
Who would you line him up with?
I think McKinnon. I'd love to see him play with McKinnon. Yeah, I think. I think you're fine. Did they ever talk about throwing Marchand on them too?
I think they always want to keep Marchand with Crosby and Bergeron.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's super disappointing though. No Olympics again. I was so looking forward to that.
That's probably going to be the last year with that line being able to dominate too, like Crosby, Bergeron, and Marchand. Like we'll see in 4 years, but
yeah, I agree with you. I don't know. I mean, I would love to see those guys at least on the same team. Even I'm a big Crosby fan still too.
Mm-hmm.
Just his character and just how he's gone about things. I've really appreciated him. So yeah, it's going to be sad when those guys aren't part of that equation.
As just closing up here, so we're Kitchener-Waterloo area in Ontario. Is there a time or this year, is it possible that we're going to be seeing the Hunter brothers in the summer, or how does that?
We this summer we're not going to be in Ontario lots. Saying that, there may be one that's, and I should actually see if it's been confirmed yet. There is a festival in Ontario that we were looking at coming to do. We're kind of spread out from coast to coast. We have Cavendish on the books out in PEI, all the way up to Sunfest out in BC. So we've got quite a few things in between. I'm hoping there's going to be a couple in. Should actually check our master tour to see, but if it's actually confirmed. But I'm hoping it's not long before we're there in Ontario.
We'd love to come see you live sometime. So when you're within like Toronto, London, or Kitchener-Waterloo, we'd love to come see you live.
Oh, yeah. I'd love to. Yeah, it is on the books in Lucknow. Where's Lucknow? I don't even know.
That's like 2 hours west of us or so, or maybe not quite.
Are you playing Boots and Hearts?
Not this year. No, we're not on the Boots and Hearts docket this year. But Lucknow Music in the Field. That's
Music in the Fields. Yeah, right. Music
Friday,
in the
August 26th. We're there.
Wow. All right. Well, I know a lot of people are going that. Maybe we'll see what we can do.
That would be awesome. I'd love to hang out with you guys in person. That would be awesome.
Yeah, that'd be unreal.
If we can't,
we didn't even talk Blue Jays.
Yeah,
I know that's the thing. True. We still got so much we got to get to.
Blue Jays are. Quick prediction for the Blue Jays this year.
Yeah, they're good enough. And I think even with their starting rotation, I like what they have. When you look at, I think Manoah is. What I saw anyway, I mean, you've got him in the rotation. Then with Barrios, I think Barrios is a fantastic pitcher, Ryu, of course. And so I think, I don't know, Gosman is going to be, I mean, they've been high on him for a while. Like, they've tried to bring him in for a while now.
Yeah.
So obviously they've been successful in doing that, bringing in Robbie Ray, Steven Matz. I mean, in past years, they saw something because Ray was a great pitcher, strikeout guy, but they obviously saw something. So I'm hoping that Gosman's the same thing. What do you guys think about their Ray rotation?
Well, Pete Walker, I think that's the biggest thing. I think he might be the best pitching coach in the whole league.
He could be. He definitely could be.
And Robbie Ray's probably his like prime thing on his resume now. Like took a guy that, like you said, a strikeout guy, and made him into a Cy Young.
Yeah, unbelievable. So if that rotation can stick in there and not have too many injuries, I mean, their offense speaks for itself. I mean, Vladdy and Bo, those guys are unreal, and
So much fun.
Oscar. So like, I think that way they're set up. Bullpen is always a question mark. It seems like
Yeah.
it's such a. I mean, even on bullpens that you think, man, they'll be unbelievable. It seems like they can be so hit and miss, and
I know.
that is so key. I mean.
I want them to sign somebody in the bullpen that for like 5 years that just can solidify either closer or setup spot. Like Romano, I love Romano, but I don't know. The bullpen seems to be a question every year.
Yeah, I don't disagree at all. Yeah, and to get a guy that's consistent year in, year out, it seems like that's a hard thing. I see they signed Joe Biagini to a minor league deal.
Yeah, that's amazing. Did you see that, Matt?
Oh, no way, really?
Joe
He's back.
Biagini. He
Joey's
got signed to a
back.
minor league. I hope he's in the bullpen so
Wow.
bad, just for his interviews.
Yeah, no kidding.
Talk about guys that are like on a list of guys I want to interview on here. Joe Biagini's got to be.
Oh,
Yeah.
You guys got to let me know if you ever get him on there, because I would love to see that.
All right. I feel like it'd be a weird interview because I think he would just be throwing curveball after us. We'd be on our toes the whole time.
Yeah, I think he'd be interviewing us by the end of it.
Yeah, I think so.
I think that'd be brilliant. Yeah.
JJ, this has been amazing though. This has been amazing.
Yeah.
We thank you very much for doing this. Talked about that merch. We're gonna have to get some. We're gonna order some hoodies, and not that you need the advertising, but we'll wear it proud here in Ontario, and keep listening to your music as well.
Man, really appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me on, and thanks for what you do. It's great being on here and talking, and love talking sports. So don't get to do that every day. So I appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it.